This Equipment World video is brought to you by Phillips 66 Lubricants, keeping the world running smoothly. What's going on, guys? Wayne here. You're watching Equipment World. Welcome into another episode of The Dirt, the video podcast that brings you interviews on the latest in construction equipment and what's going on in the construction industry in general. Today on The Dirt, we're going to be talking about 4 new excavator models from Caterpillar on the kind of smaller end of their mid-size excavator lineup. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the new Cat 315, 315 GC, 317, and 317 GC models. And to do that, we're going to be joined by Brian Stellbrink. Brian is an excavator product application specialist at Caterpillar. He's joining us to talk about all of the improvements across these 4 models and really to talk a little bit about the differences between the GC models and the 15 and 17 proper models, what you can expect if you're going in looking at one of these GC models. But, basically today we're going to get into, there's a ton of hydraulic improvements. There's a lot of standard technology on both the 15 and the 17 models. So let's go ahead and get into the interview with Brian. Let's get into it. Hey, Brian, man, thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of The Dirt to talk about these new Cat next generation excavators. How you doing today, man?
Doing well. Thank you, Wayne. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. So, hey, Brian, so we're actually going to be talking about 4 technically separate models, but they're all next generation models, and they're pretty close in size and maybe potential applications and everything. But before we kind of get into the specifics of each of these machines, could you kind of talk a little bit about I guess their position in the lineup? The 315 is around a 15 metric ton machine, while the 317 is are really like a 18.2 metric ton machine there at 34,000 and 40,000 pounds kind of respectively. Talk a little bit about these 2 machines and maybe some of the, even though they are kind of close in size, kind of what some of the differences, what particular customer these are aimed at, who might want the heavier machine as opposed to one of the 315 models, and kind of go through that and their position in this Cat lineup.
Sure, absolutely, Wayne. So we're excited. 4 new models, we want to talk about today, really in that, as you mentioned, 15 to 18 ton range, which is a little over 30,000 pounds up through about 40,000 pounds. And there's a lot of opportunity in that area. It's really used by a wide range of contractors, heavy residential users, commercial site prep. Even you get into some of the large infrastructure projects and heavy highway used as a lot of key support pieces of equipment. So it's really where transportability kind of meets production, meets versatility, and works across really a wide range of jobs, and really why we have a number of models within what we often call our small excavator range, below 40,000 pounds. And transportation is really key, a key consideration, whether it's the 15s or the 17s. You've got machines that if you put 24-inch track pads on, you're within an 8'6" shipping transport width, and you're right around that 40,000 pounds or below, which is critical for many contractors as far as load and go type of movement, putting them on a tag trailer, going to dig some basements with them, doing some hardscaping work. So really it's versatility and transportability is really key. As far as our 315s, again, 32 to 35,000 pounds, depending on how they're configured. That's really our compact radius offering. So it's for contractors that can really take advantage and value having a tight tail swing machine to work in confined spaces, but still have a very versatile transportable solution. For those looking at that 317 size machine, I need a little more reach, a little more dig depth, want to do a little more work, a little more performance potential. You're moving from 100 horsepower range on the 315 up into 120 to 130 horsepower. So it's a machine that can do more work, but still be within some of those transport considerations. And again, kind of that small excavator range. So that's kind of comparing and contrasting at a very high level our 315 compact radius with the 317, a little bit bigger machine, a little bit more performance potential, in a standard radius package.
Yeah, and we're going to get into each of these 4 new specific models because I do want to get in on the specific changes with these GC models. But talk a little bit about the GC, the idea behind a GC machine in general, and maybe what that means on excavators, and who these GC machines are for. What are you guys trying to kind of, what is the differentiation in general between these machines?
Sure, absolutely. So the GC concept or GC offering overall is certainly not new to Caterpillar. It's not specific to excavators. You see it in wheel loaders, you see it in some other products. But if we're talking about excavators and kind of the GC offering, it's really about providing customers solutions that best match what they need, okay? And in a lot of cases, especially down in the small excavator range, they may not be a machine used in a very high production environment. It may be a support piece of equipment. It may be 300-400 hours a year. It still needs to do a base level of performance and work, but it's not in a high production day in and day out application. Also, there's many users out there that maybe aren't ready yet or don't have the need or value the technology that we've standardized on our standard products. So the GC concept overall is to provide a good, high performance, reliable, durable machine at a lower owning and operating cost. So a base level performance to meet the needs of many jobs, while doing that with a focus on even lower owning and operating costs. So lower overall acquisition cost up front, lower fuel consumption, lower maintenance costs, really going after and targeting that owning and operating costs, which again, a performance level that meets the needs of what many contractors need, especially in that small excavator range.
Yeah, I mean, and the kind of, the other thing that kind of the GC kind of model brings to mind to me, I know in my conversations with Alex Stockman, the retail development manager for North America, and just kind of the new kind of retail strategy that includes, there's been several changes to the CAT retail locations, but some of the on machine pricing. And just kind of the, prior to you guys starting a little bit of that on-machine pricing, obviously the industry was a little bit hesitant to actually put prices on machines because they didn't want to, maybe scare people out of the out of the showroom. But one of the things that Alex mentioned to me was that when CAT started to do that a little bit and actually put prices on machines, maybe even by the roadside, is that a lot of folks started to realize, hey, I always thought that a CAT machine would be out of my reach and that I couldn't even really consider a CAT machine, building it into my operation at this point, maybe in the life of my company or my career or whatever. And could you talk a little bit about how that, offering these lower price points, not just on the compact equipment, but on some of these smaller and medium-sized excavators, how that GC offering offers even more opportunity for a guy who maybe always wanted a CAT machine, but thinks it might be out of his reach?
So certainly with the GC offering, it allows us to, in our dealer network, to reach new customers and new retail opportunities that were maybe very challenging or had a preconceived notion before. So it's an opportunity to go in with a Caterpillar product, backed by Caterpillar, backed by the dealership, excellent dealer support, excellent support through and through, very reliable, durable, what Caterpillar is known for, and a machine that still meets their needs. So I think it has allowed us to reach certain customers that would previously just think that, at a certain price point, maybe CAT's not interested in me and I'm not interested in CAT. And so it's certainly opened the doors and I think surprised a lot of customers and allowed our dealers to interact with a lot of new customers for us. And in doing that, it's also opened up the opportunity to showcase some of the other products in the lineup. So it kind of opens the door to new opportunities for Caterpillar and its dealer network to really show customers what we have to offer, not just in the GC offering, but obviously from the services side to the technology side and the whole portfolio of products. So certainly it's been an eye-opening experience for many customers that otherwise wouldn't have maybe interacted with us.
Now, kind of moving on to the specific machines that we're going to talk about today, I want to start with the 315. Now, you guys introduced this actually earlier in 2020 at ConExpo. I guess the first thing that I've got for you on this machine is, what in your mind is really the biggest improvement? And there's lots to talk about with this machine too. I mean, there's a new cab, there's some nice new technology kind of updates that are going to help with efficiencies and productivity gains. But there's some hydraulic system updates. But in your mind, what is kind of the biggest improvement from an operation standpoint on the 315? And what is some of the stuff that you guys, we have about, 6-7 months here. Well, actually almost a full year now of time now between that ConExpo introduction. What are some of the things that you guys have heard maybe from customers about this machine?
It's been fun to have customers around this machine, not just at ConExpo, but obviously through the dealers have been delivering a number of these machines throughout the summer and as we come into this year. And it's I think mainly three key things. And it's been the cab itself, which we've gone from a compact radius, a little bit smaller cab to on the next gen machine 315. It is a full size next gen hex cab. And we've had tremendous amount of positive experience since we launched next gen excavators. And with the cab and that experience, and to take that onto a 35,000 pound excavator has been a home run. And it's been very enjoyable to watch the feedback from the customers and their experience in getting in that size machine with that amount of space and that interface with the operator. The second key thing I would say is the performance level of that machine. We've increased performance on that, and it's really all the way around. So again, that's a very high performing compact radius machine. So from swing torque, from cycle time, from track power, from climbing slopes, swinging uphill, running a variety of hydraulic intensive work tools such as mowers, brush cutters, hammers, thumbs. So it's been exciting to hear the positive feedback on the overall hydraulic performance of that machine. And the third key thing I would say is the standard technology. To have a 2D indicate grade system, to have an onboard scale system that is heavily used in this size range. I think a lot of times we think of truck loading as maybe some of the bigger machines, but if you think of how many of this size machine are loading trucks day in and day out, and it's not just large off-highway trucks, obviously they're on-highway trucks. You're putting material in, a lot of times they're trucking it off-site, they're going down the road, and it's extremely important to know that you're maximizing what you're throwing in that truck, yet eliminating the risk of fines. So really maximizing your efficiency through the use of the technology. So those are kind of the three key themes and three things that we've not just talked about at the launch of it, but we've heard a lot of tremendous feedback as more and more of these are getting out into the field.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right on the truck loading aspect of that. I mean, I see lots of, excavators in this range, especially like at intersections or along roadsides now with all the road work that's being done across the country. A lot of these machines in this size class are being used to load, dump trucks that are, hauling that dirt from this kind of intersection or this roadside kind of back and forth. So yeah, absolutely. And that, like you said, that standard kind of payload indicate there is a huge feature, and I do want to get into that in just a little bit. But I want to start on the hydraulic system updates. You guys said that on the 315, you guys have upped productivity thanks to this new hydraulic system by up to 8% over the 315 FL. Could you kind of talk a little bit about? There's also a new kind of one of the new features there is the electronic hydraulic valve. Talk a little bit about the kind of these improvements to the hydraulic system. What makes these productivity increases possible? What exactly did you guys do to this new hydraulic system to kind of improve it over that 315 FL?
But before we get into that, I do want to take a quick second right here to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Phillips 66 Lubricants. Look, construction and mining are tough environments, not just on the people doing these jobs, but on the machines that they're using to get those jobs done. And when you depend on a machine to move massive massive amounts of dirt in as little time as possible and in extreme hot and cold conditions, these machines need the toughest lubricants possible to protect them. See, Phillips 66 has put thousands of hours into testing products like Gardol ECT, and with proven wear and corrosion protection, it's clear why 60% of the thousands of mining operations in the United States trust one brand to keep their equipment going: Phillips 66 lubricants. So look, whatever you've got, graders, end loaders, dump trucks, Phillips 66 will protect it. You can even call the Phillips 66 technical hotline and talk to experts one-on-one about their product. Phillips 66 lubricants, keeping the world running smoothly.
The heart of any excavator is the hydraulic system. I mean, nothing moves on an excavator without hydraulics. The engine is there to turn the pumps and cool itself, and that's the role of the engine. So it's all about the hydraulic system, and our focus was to increase the efficiency of the hydraulic system and increase the hydraulic power. So that we're putting more power to turn those pumps, so we can basically create more hydraulic flow at a similar pressure as before, but flow to an excavator is speed. So if we can put more flow available out into that system and do it more efficiently, we can actually burn less fuel and increase the hydraulic power and the overall cycle time and performance of that machine. So it's getting a little bit technical there, but it's really about having more hydraulic power and then a more efficient valve as kind of the flow director, and do that electronically, so we can do it extremely quick, extremely efficiency to get that oil where it needs to go when that operator commands it. So it's about not only more power, but distributing it smarter and more efficiently of where it needs to go.
Yeah, Brian, and another kind of aspect of this this new electronic hydraulic control valve is that it's actually eliminated the need for pilot lines. So that's definitely going to play a big role in kind of the quickness of response and the controls and everything like that. Talk a little bit about that, the elimination of those pilot lines and how that kind of changes the feel of operation for the operator.
Yeah, exactly, and that's been a common theme with the next generation of excavators. It's no different with the 315s, but they're electrohydraulically controlled, which basically means we have a smart electrohydraulic main valve, and as the operator gives commands in the cab, is basically electronic wires that go to that main valve, and that gives the operator extremely quick response by when they command a certain amount of movement or want to do something with the fronts of those machines. We can get a very quick reaction at the valve. So it increases the speed and the efficiency of the overall machine. It also eliminates those pilot lines that are in the cab. And if you think of some of the higher temperature environments, some of the areas of the country over the summertime, any of that heat that we can remove out of the cab certainly helps for a more comfortable environment and less potential leak points. So it's really a home run as far as simplifying the hydraulic system, very quick, high performance, and also a more comfortable environment.
Now, another big improvement on this machine that operators are going to really notice as soon as they start swinging it around is that swing torque is actually improved by, you guys are saying, 10% higher swing torque. So I would assume some of these hydraulic advancements, they play into that higher swing torque. But yeah, I mean, if there is something apart from those advancements or something specific apart or a specific part of those advancements in the hydraulics that are kind of opening up that higher swing torque, talk a little bit about that and what kind of difference has that made on the 315 and the work that the 315 does specifically.
So you mentioned on increased swing torque and go up on what's behind that, and it was really a redesign of the hydraulic swing motor that gives us the additional swing torque, and why that's important to an operator. I mean, if you think of where these machines work, a lot of times they're working on hillsides, you're swinging uphill, you want that additional swing torque. You can reach out further and still make the pass up the hill. Also, if you're sideswiping material or if you're backfilling with the machine, you're cutting trenches. A lot of these are used in underground utility work. So if you can side hold and you're cutting trenches, that additional swing torque is certainly noticeable and appreciated by operators in many of their applications. And again, it really comes through a redesign of the swing drive, working with the hydraulic system. to, at the end of the day, give more swing torque.
And there, I mean, you know, the kind of the power and the productivity improvements, like I said at the top, they're numerous. Another big improvement here is 14% more drawbar pull. For some improvements there into the drive system. Talk a little bit about that drawbar pull improvement, what's kind of behind that, and how that's changing operation.
So the increased drawbar pull, again, you know, it's another hydraulic component, the hydraulic drives that basically propel the machine forward in turn. We've increased the pressure and also have redesigned some of the drives. So what that does at the end of the day, it gives more climbing power, more tractive power. Again, why is that important to an operator? It depends on what application there is. But if you're working in softer underfoot conditions where you don't always have great traction by both sides of the machine, if you're making turns in tougher material, if you're turning on hillsides, all of that is going to come into play and give overall increased performance in those types of applications due to the increased drawbar pull.
I do want to talk, at least touch on the engine here, even though, you know, really most of the updates with this machine and improvements are really based around those new hydraulics. But powering this machine is a 110 net horsepower Cat C3.6. That's a Tier 4 final engine. Brian, talk a little bit about that 3.6, kind of the importance of that engine really to the whole kind of Cat lineup, and what what kind of improvements or kind of upgrades just kind of come at really as a result of that new engine.
So the new C3.6, it's not just used in the smaller excavator range. Very important engine for Caterpillar. It's used across a number of different products, from some of the track type tractors to the backhoe loaders to some other products as well. But I would say a way to summarize that is efficiency. To be able to get increased power levels out of that machine, for example, on 315, we increased power, yet we're burning slightly less fuel. So it's about transferring that power and still being able to save fuel while at the same time you're providing more performance. So to me, that's really what that engine is doing inside of that excavator. It's able to provide more power and do it in a more efficient way and communicate very well electronically with the hydraulic system. And I think it's really those two being developed and designed and working together that further improves that efficiency when it comes to not just the engine and the feeling of the engine, but matching that electronically through the software to the electro-hydraulic smarter hydraulic system and getting the most out of both in the most efficient way that you can.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, there's obviously an eco mode that you can drop the machine down into if your priority is saving fuel. But there's also, and you kind of alluded to it there, there's a new smart mode that you can kind of switch into and operate within, and that's going to, like you said, it's going to match that engine and hydraulic power, you know, to kind of the conditions of the job. Talk a little bit about that. Is that smart mode so that you're not really having to, you know, because in the past we've had normal and eco and power modes. Is that smart mode really meant to kind of keep operators from having to, like, you know, I guess actually make that conscious decision of, you know, I'm either going all out for power or all out for eco, and really trying to maybe prioritize fuel savings while also not putting a cap on the available power? Is that kind of like a good characterization of that mode?
Yeah, absolutely. You summarized it very well. So really, smart mode, it's the best of both. It's the best of the max power mode when it needs to be, and it's the best of economy mode or eco mode when it needs to be. So what smart mode is doing, first of all, it's a mode in the machine monitor. The operator can set it in a smart mode, leave it there. They can default it to that however they choose. We're giving them choices, giving them options. But what smart mode really does is, if you're asking for maximum power out of that machine, it's going to behave like maximum power mode. It's going to work up at its highest RPMs. It's going to provide the maximum hydraulic power if that operator needs it. Now, if that operator is working in maybe less demanding applications, doing some lighter digging, some backfilling, some lifting and craning with the machine, that machine is going to sense that based on what the operator is demanding and actually start to cautiously lower itself down to behaving like economy mode. So it's almost predictive based on what that operator is doing, based on the lever command, based on the engine loading. It's doing all of this automatically behind the scenes to adjust the power output to the demands of the application.
Do you guys have like a number in terms of the fuel savings maybe over that previous generation 315 FL?
Yeah, it's really going to vary quite a bit, but you could get fuel savings down into the 15% range. If you are in smart mode and it's starting in lighter to medium duty applications, you can get that level of savings, even 15 to 20% in some cases, but it's really going to vary based on the application. And that's if it's truly behaving like an economy mode compared to, an F series that was in its maximum setting. Now, if you're in more demanding applications and you're working up near power mode, even though it's set in smart mode, but it's behaving more like power mode because it needs to, the production demand is there. Obviously, those fuel savings are going to be a little bit less.
Yeah, and I know kind of the talk about eco mode and the smart mode. I know that some guys, their question is going to be, but is power mode still there? Is power mode still available?
Yes, absolutely. And because you may ask, well, if this smart mode is so smart, why don't you just have smart mode and not have the other modes? And in reality, smart mode is that smart, and it will behave just like power mode. But we know that some operators, and there may be, questioning that a little bit or wondering, is that really the case? And I want to be in max power all the time. And we left those options there so they can choose to be in that if they want. And you also have some that are used to running economy mode, and that's where they want to be. So certainly that option is there. But really, the best of both is leave it in smart mode, let the machine decide.
Now, one thing that we talked about earlier was that the fact that cat grade with 2D comes standard on this machine. Talk a little bit about that, maybe for guys who haven't used that system, kind of go into the features of that system exactly. And there's some potentially big kind of productivity gains there. You guys are saying really up to 45% productivity increases thanks to the available grade control technology on this machine. But yeah, so the 2D system comes standard, but you can upgrade it if you need more, if you maybe up to cat grade with 3D even. So talk a little bit about that, just that standard 2D system and what kind of increases guys can expect if they put that system to work.
So the grade system that comes standard on the machine, and we've made it so it's a very scalable solution, so that we start as a 2D system, and if somebody wants to go 3D, that certainly can be added after the fact. The dealer can come in and help with that and basically mimic a full 3D system as it would come out of the factory. Or we have some that they want 3D on that size machine right off the bat, and it can come right out of the factory that way as well. But back to the 2D system, there's substantial gains that you can achieve out on the job with a 2D grade system. If you think about what a lot of these machines are doing, they're cutting to grade, they're doing underground utility work, they're doing some slope work, they're doing some trenching, they're digging foundations. All of those applications can take the benefits of a grade system. So essentially, if you want to dig to a certain depth, if you want to put a slope in to have the water run a certain direction, you can certainly do that. You can do it all from the cab. It's an indicate system, so you know exactly where you are relative to the grade and where you want to be. And if you think of eliminating a grade checker in that case, or many of these are owner operators, and the grade checker is the same one in the cab traditionally that's getting in and out of that machine all day long, that is virtually eliminated with a standard grade system. So really bringing that grade rod, bringing that grade checker in the cab with the operator, it's the machine. The machine is basically guiding that operator where to dig. So if you think of the 35-40% efficiency gains, in some cases, we've had customers tell us it's even higher than that. Minimizing the chances of over digging, knowing where you need to be, minimizing the fill material. It's just, there's gains all the way around as far as operating cost. It's not just getting to grade faster and burning less fuel and the time involved, but it's also getting on grade and eliminating or minimizing the amount of extra material that you need, whether it's bedding material, whether it's having to go back and compact maybe because you overdug in some cases, rarely the case, but is possible. So certainly there's huge benefits of grade technology and standard on our next gen excavators, non-GC.
And another kind of nice aspect of the standard technology on the machine in terms of a safety feature is that you guys are also including that 2D E-fence. Talk a little bit about that, how that system works, and how it kind of makes sure that things don't go where they're not supposed to. And it also actually includes standard cab avoidance, which is another nice safety feature as well.
Those are all kind of sub features of the E-fence package. So if you think next gen X technology, it's grade, which we talked about, the payload system, and then E-fence. Those are kind of the big three standard technologies. And E-fence, it's really the operator is setting a defined boundary condition that they don't want to go beyond. It may be a ceiling avoidance, such as you're still working on the inside of a building, a skeleton structure, needing to finish some dirt work out inside. You can set a ceiling limit. You can set a ceiling limit to stay out of power lines, to stay out of overhead structures, bridges crossing over. You can set swing stops. So if you're working alongside traffic, that operator can set a swing limit. And it's very easy as an operator. They go in there through the monitor very quickly, go to the point by which they do not want that bucket to go beyond or any part of the front of that machine, turn that fence feature on and go to work. And if they're going about their task and they happen to come in a little bit quicker than they had hoped or were originally planning, that machine will step in and help and basically prevent going beyond that point. And whether that's a ceiling, a swing stop, left or right, even cab avoidance. So now we have the ability with some longer sticks with quick couplers, it's inevitable that it's possible to get a tooth of the bucket into the cab because you don't want to restrict the digging envelope of that machine. But the downside of that is you can get that cab closer than you'd want. But now with the E-fence cab avoidance feature, that can be eliminated. We know where the front parts of the machine are at any given point in time. Therefore, you can turn cab avoidance on and keep the front parts of that machine out of the cab, yet still give you the full working range in a digging environment.
Now, again, there's just so many really nice standard technology features on this machine, but Product Link is standard for telematics, and then you've also got a standard CAT payload with Vision Link to remotely kind of manage and take a look at exactly where your production is at. Talk a little bit about these kind of these three kind of that Product Link, Vision Link, and the standard CAT payload. The ability to kind of monitor that production in real time and how that kind of changes the game, how it can change the game on a lot of job sites.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think of the payload system interacting with Product Link and through the Vision Link window, the payload system on these excavators, it's really about very valuable onboard information to the operator, but then also the offboard information that is available through Vision Link. And if we start out with the onboard information for payload, knowing real time what you're putting in that truck, you can set a target and within 3% that you've achieved that target. So think about maximizing what you're putting in those trucks to increase your job efficiency, to haul the maximum you can, yet eliminate the risk of fines of that truck going down the road. So extremely powerful to prevent overloading or underloading, which is more common, of trucks. So you right load those trucks. Now the offboard information is very valuable because what's going on behind the scenes, it's continually tracking the work information payloads and also the truck storage, and all that data is being stored and sent. And so somebody off board can essentially look at the production of that particular excavator or a fleet of excavators and understand, how do we maybe need to adjust the job site process, or where am I underutilizing an excavator in a truck loading application? Where is there an opportunity for operator training? So it's a mechanism to monitor the production levels and truck count levels, and to really take a step back and how do I increase the efficiency of that job? So it's an excellent tool for that, for the onboard information, and then also a level of offboard information that we continue to develop and move forward.
Now, I know that these kind of next two things that I want to kind of talk about, they're going to apply really across all four models between the 15 and the 17. But the new cab that these next gen excavators have, I'd like to talk a little bit about that. And then I also another big element of these new machines is the reduced maintenance cost. But let's start with that new cab. What can operators kind of expect on the new cab of these machines?
They can expect the experience that many have had with the next generation excavator that we've introduced for the last 3.5 years now in some of the larger machines. Now, what can they expect? A user that's maybe new to that machine, they can expect more space. They can expect excellent visibility. They can expect an excellent ergonomic layout as well, meaning that everything that operator needs to interact with, unlike some previous machines, unlike some others in the industry, everything they need to interact with is really forward of their shoulders. Shortcut keys can be programmed. You can put a number of your most commonly used tasks on the joystick buttons. So we have programmable buttons on the joysticks now. So different operators have different preferences, different applications use different features of the machines more or less. You can take those and program them on the joysticks as kind of shortcuts. You can also interact with a large 10-inch touchscreen monitor. Okay, so the experience is very similar to what most everybody is carrying around in their pocket on that job, is a touchscreen display. And to have that to be able to interact with, but also have some of those most common functions on the joystick buttons. There's a lot of preferences and tailoring that machine to what that operator wants to use most and what their preferences are. So there's a lot of customization, I'll say, that can be done to different levels within that machine. But then also just the overall size and the visibility and the consoles and the space of getting in and out of that machine, helping with safety, helping with just an overall increased experience. So we've taken a big leap forward with the cabs, and we've had a lot of excellent positive experience, and also the consistency. So if you think of, and maybe in some of these larger fleets or mid-sized fleets, the ability for an operator to go from one excavator to another excavator and to have the same exact experience on a 15,000 pound machine, up through basically a 50,000 pound machine. So the consistency there is very important.
Now, like I said, on the maintenance side, I mean, you guys have made quite a few tweaks and updates here on the maintenance side. You're seeing basically reduced maintenance costs on the GC model of up to 25%, for 315 GC up to 25%, 20% on the 317 models. So, and I know that between these two models, a lot of these changes that are knocking these maintenance costs down a little bit are kind of shared between the models. So, kind of go through these reduced maintenance costs across this kind of four model, 15 to 18 metric ton lineup there.
Yeah, so a big focus of next gen excavators, as you know, is lowering the owning and operating costs. And within the operating costs is two big contributors. Is fuel consumption and then maintenance cost. So obviously we've gone after an increased fuel efficiency and taking the costs down in that area, but then it gets to the maintenance cost. And the areas that we've been able to drastically reduce the maintenance cost really comes down to two key things. It's eliminating some maintenance intervals altogether, and it's extending other maintenance intervals. I'll give you a couple of examples of both. So with this new electro-hydraulic system, we've been able to eliminate a couple filters, hydraulic filters that were 500 and 1,000 hour filters. Completely eliminate them because of a redesigned, simplified electro-hydraulic system. They were a pilot oil filter and they were a K-strain hydraulic filter. So eliminating those eliminates a number of touch points on that machine. And it's not just the cost of those components, it's also the time, right? So this is increasing uptime by less time maintaining the machine, as well as the lower cost of those components, or eliminating the cost of those components. Another area is extending maintenance intervals. An example there would be main hydraulic return oil filter was every 2,000 hours previously. we've extended that 50% to 3,000 hours. So if you add all of those up and minimizing those touch points, eliminating some altogether, increasing uptime, we're able to lower the overall maintenance cost of these new machines.
So yeah, I mean, and with the, we've kind of gone through really a lot of shared features between these two machines, or between the two different sizes, the 15 and the 17. But I do kind of want to take a second before we move on to the 17 to talk a little bit about the 315 GC. Now, and a lot of this is going to apply to the 17 GC as well. But like, given everything we just talked about on the 15 and all the standard features and all of the productivity increases, basically what folks can kind of expect out of that GC model is a lot of the cab comforts, right? And then maybe some of the extras, maybe some of the technology extras, maybe those aren't there. But tell us a little bit about the specific differences between the 15 and the 15 GC, and kind of maybe a little bit about some of the thought process that went behind kind of trying to decide what exactly to remove from the 15 to make this more the GC, to make the GC a more kind of cost conscious model and give guys exactly what they need.
So the primary differences really are related to technology, related to a level of performance, and a few less creature features, bells and whistles in the cab. I mean, it's about a lower owning and operating cost machine. But having said that, there's so much similarity across those two machines. But the main differences are there's a lot of users out there that maybe aren't ready yet for technology, or they're on certain applications that just can't get the advantage out of the technology. So this is a machine that's targeted for those types of users. It doesn't have the full technology package. It has good, strong F-Series level performance. And then the 315s takes it a step further, with all this increased performance. But we've got F-Series performance in that GC offering for those that don't value or need the technology, and a few less creature features in the cab. And that's really targeting for someone that is really all that I need, but still a very reliable, durable product that is a strong F-Series performing type machine. I mean, that's really what it was targeted to at a lower owning and operating cost.
So in terms of, that F-Series kind of performance, because I do kind of want to draw a line here a little bit. So some of the hydraulic updates that we talked about on the 15, are those now on the 15 GC? You still got the electronic, the electronic hydraulic control valve there, and some of those improvements there. But so are maybe not all of the hydraulic improvements that you find on the 15, are they just are some of those not there on the 15 GC, and that's kind of what makes it more of a 315F type performer as opposed to the higher performing 315? What are some of the differences there that kind of that mean kind of lesser performance on the GC compared to the 15, I guess, technically?
So really, it's a very similar hydraulic system, just running at a different power level. Okay, so it's really a different hydraulic power level that's more similar to the power that was coming out of our prior generation F-Series. So that's why we kind of summarize this, and this goes for the 17 as well. It's an F-Series performance in a GC offering at a GC owning and operating cost value proposition, but still very strong F-Series level performance, which was very successful. And the key differences in the hydraulic system really come down to the hydraulic pump settings, that overall the amount of oil that's coming out and available to that system. But so much of the machine is very similar. It's again at that highly successful 315 F-Series power level without any of the technology and a few less things in the cab.
Right. So yeah, and so that means no cat payload, no 2D grade guidance, no e-fence, stuff like that. But what about you mentioned inside the cab, really the cab for the most part seems like it's mostly the same. I think apart from you had the 10-inch display, touchscreen display in the 15, and you've got an 8-inch, but it's still touch capable. Are there any other differences apart from that inside the cab of the GC compared to the 15 and 17 models?
The primary differences are, as you mentioned, it's an 8-inch touchscreen display, which is still very nice display, just not all the size of that 10-inch display in the 15. The overhead, basically top roof of the cab, the hatch of the cab, is a steel hatch instead of the poly hatch. And then the seat's a little bit different too. It's a mechanical suspension seat, which is not uncommon in the industry, instead of the full heated air ride seat. So those are the main differences inside the cab, which aren't major differences, but certainly lines up with what we've heard with some customer feedback of, hey, that's really all I need on a support piece of equipment or a machine that, I'm using for a certain range of jobs.
Now, kind of moving on to the 317 models in particular here. Like I said just a second ago, just a lot of the stuff that we've already talked about apply. A lot of the changes and improvements and the upgrades that we have gone through on the 15, they're going to apply to the 17 as well. You've got the 3 available engine modes, the Smart, the Power, the Eco, that are adding up to fuel efficiency gains. You've also got the improved hydraulic system with the electro-hydraulic controls and that new electro-hydraulic control valve, kind of eliminating those pilot lines and making the entire system more efficient, and also kind of improving on that maintenance side. And then you've got the technologies side. So what exactly is there something in particular about the 17 in terms of improvements or upgrades that you feel like is kind of the headline improvement for this machine in particular? And is there kind of any different upgrades that are specific to the 17 that maybe the 315 doesn't have, or are they the same across the board?
So I would say, in a very simplistic way, that the approach that we've taken, it's very similar to what we've done with the 17. We're just in a little bit different area of the product family. And again, up against this 40,000 pound size class that's still very transportable, but can do more work in many respects than the compact radius 315, different size machine. But the focus there, again, let's take our performance machine and take that even further. Let's increase the horsepower up to 130 horsepower now in our 317. It's a very fast, strong, quick, high-performing machine, loaded up with technology, comfort cab, lower operating costs for maintenance and fuel efficiency. And then on the GC side of things, again, very similar recipe is we take our prior F-Series, very successful 316F, we put that performance level into our 317 GC. We add the next gen hex cab layout and then those features associated with the GC. No technology for those users that really don't value or can use it in their specific tasks. And you have 2 offerings to really go out there and help contractors be more successful with those 2 offerings in a very high volume, popular size class that again is very transportable, yet can do pretty large scale of work for its size.
Yeah, I mean, and just to be clear for everybody out there, I mean, everything that we have talked about on the 15 is there on the 17. You've got the hydraulic and the power improvements. You've got the new cab. You've got the standard technology, CAT grade with 2D with available upgrade to advanced 2D or CAT grade with 3D. You've got the CAT payload standard and product link and vision link, kind of availability there to kind of look in on your real-time production. You've got the reduced maintenance costs, and then you've got the new cab as well. And I think, really to me, the biggest difference between, I guess, the 15 models and the 17 models is that the 15 models, they share that C3.6 engine, though, like you said earlier, Brian, at a kind of, maybe different power levels, definitely with the hydraulics on the GC model, kind of a lesser hydraulic level on the GC model compared to the 15. The 17 models, actually, they have two different engines, like you said. You've got the C4.4 in the 17 proper, and you've got the 3.6 with a little less horsepower in the 17 GC. So, at the end of the day, like you just said, I mean, really, you've got the GC is trying to give guys the power that they need, trying to right size that power, and still an impressive amount of available power from those F-Series models in a much more affordable package with a lot, with that new cab, which is a huge kind of benefit in and of itself, and with a new hydraulic system, electro-hydraulic controls, and those upgrades. So yeah, I mean, the GC is a really attractive package for those either trying to get into the CAT lineup or really trying to pay attention to right sizing, and like you said, those guys that don't necessarily need all of the technology. For sure. So, I mean, Brian, is there anything else on the 17 or the changes on the 17 that you feel like that you guys have heard from operators, be it the increases in swing torque and power and performance and everything like that? What have you guys kind of heard on the 17? This new 17 compared to its F-Series kind of predecessor that operators are really liking in terms of the improvements and upgrades?
The key things on the performance side has been how fast and quick the 317 is, and also the reassurance from the operator evaluations and feedback that we've gathered is that 317, it is performing at our 16F level, which was a very successful machine from us. 316E, the 316F, and to have the GC come in here at that value prop has been, very well received. To have that level of performance, which is all many need and does a very good job, and then to hear on that new 317 that 130 horsepower with that C4.4, it is an extremely fast, quick machine, and also the additional some swing torque. A little bit of additional drive power, but then the balance of the machine too. That's another area that we focus on in the development. And this goes for whether it's a GC or whether it's a traditional machine. But to have that machine, it sits even flatter, it sits more balanced, you're stretched out over the side. So increased stability. And we did this with moving the center of gravity around on those machines. And we also increased more counterweight in them. So not only more hydraulic power, but to be able to have a machine that can handle that power and stay very well balanced and increase stability compared to the prior generation is also an area of very good feedback that we've received and an area we focused on. And you think of what a lot of these machines do and the tools that they carry, a lot of hydraulic thumb use. There's a lot of hammer use. They're used in a lot of applications where they're stretched out, some relatively large working range for these size machines. They do a lot of lifting and craning and doing, utility work. And so certainly contractors will benefit tremendously with the increased stability and of those machines.
All right, Brian. Hey, man, that's all the time we've got on this episode of The Dirt. But thank you so much for hopping on and talking to us about these new 315 and 317 excavators from CAT. A lot of great improvements to both of these machines. So yeah, man, thank you so much for talking to us about it today. And be well, man.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your time, Wayne.
All right, guys, well, that's going to wrap up this episode of The Dirt. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks to Brian again for stopping by and talking to us about these new CAT 315, 315 GC, 317, and 317 GC excavator models and all of the improvements. But we want to know what you guys think. Let us know what you think of these 4 new models, the improvements, these GC models in particular. Let us know what you think in the comments below. We always love hearing from you guys. And if you like this video and found the information in it useful in your next machine purchase or rental, do us a favor and hit that like button below. It really does help the channel out. And if you want more videos and more coverage of construction equipment equipment, head on over to our website at equipmentworld.com. And while you're there, subscribe to our daily newsletter. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe right here on YouTube as well and turn on notifications. Hit the bell so you're getting up to the minute alerts whenever we drop a new video. Thank you guys so much again for watching. We always appreciate the time, and we'll see you in the next one.